Affinity layout and 2 parts for the upcoming training videos. So you've got a school project or a client and you need to create a digital magazine layout. Well, that tends to get quite challenging trying to set up the correct margins and guides. And that's what we're going to solve here. I will walk you through how to calculate margin space based on the page dimensions and the typographic leading value of the text. Using those values, we'll set up the right margins, the right guides, and baseline grid to ensure your magazine layout is perfectly balanced. Hi everyone, I am your instructor, Elias Sarantopoulos, and welcome to the first part of Affinity Layout Digital Magazine training video. Up next. Alright, so inside Affinity Canva, I'll switch from the Vector Workspace to the Layout Studio Workspace for publishing-based page layout, features and tools. Under the File menu, I create a new document. I'll set the preset orientation to Portrait, and here we have a lot of choices to choose from. But in our example, we are working with the letter NCA, referring to the standard US paper size of 8.5 by 11 inches. I'll click on that. The DPI, the dots per inch, is set to 300, which is perfect for printing. Now moving forward to the multi-page option, this page spread example will be laid out as a 2-page spread, giving the document a spine. That means I would toggle on the multi-page option and make sure that the facing pages is also enabled. As for the number of pages and just this example layout, I'll set one to 3 pages. Margins define the content which may include text, images, and other content design. Typically, we set the margins here, but for now, I will keep the margins option disabled and set the margins on a different step. Bleed is the area extending past the edge of the page to avoid white strips appearing along the edge of your print. So I'll set the bleed to 0.125 inches, which is 1/8 of an inch, and then click to create a new document. Now it's time to determine the size of the margins and create a document grid. And because we want this to appear in the entire page spread, it is important that we work inside the master pages. So under the window menu, Layout, I'll bring up the Pages panel. Here are the 3 pages we just created, and here we've got the master pages. Right now we don't have one. So right here, I'll click to add a master page. By default, we get the master A, which I'm going to keep everything as is, and then click OK. Now when choosing the master A page, I'll double click on the thumbnail to make sure that I'm working on both page spreads. So to calculate this, we are looking at the letter size in points. 612 by 792 points, since this is the unit of measurement we'll use, as the leading value is always measured in points. Now the letter size of this document has an aspect ratio of 1 to 1.3, and to maintain that aspect ratio, our page layout grid will have 10 columns and 13 rows. That will give us the most square grid for the layout. The height of each row needs to be as big as 1 line of text, 2 lines of text, or 3 lines of text, and so on. I'll set the height of each row with 3 lines of text, so that will be 13 rows times 3 lines. that equals 39 lines. Now let's not forget the spacing between the rows, the gutter space. In this case, we'll have a total of 12 gutters. That will be 39 lines times 12 gutters. That equals 51 lines from the top margin to the bottom margin. Now here we need to make one important design decision, that is to set the leading value of the magazine, which is the distance between two lines of text. So for this US letter page layout, I'm making the design decision to set the leading size to 13 points. So 51 lines times 13 points, that is going to give us a height of 663 points, where the most of the content will be contained. To determine the amount of space for the top and bottom margins, we'll take the page height of 792 points and subtract the 663 points, leaving us with 129 points, which is the top and bottom margins combined. Now, it is a personal choice how to distribute the 129 points between the top and bottom margin. I'll make the top margin smaller since the bottom margin is most likely to include the folio referring to the page numbers, the name of the magazine, and the publication date. So I'll set the inner margin the same value as the top margin, and I'll set the outside margin the same value as the bottom margin. So returning back to Affinity Canva, let's first change the units of measurement from inches to points, since the leading size is always measured in points. So right here in the corner where the rulers intersect, I'll right click and switch from inches to points. Then under the view menu, I'll bring up the guides panel. For the columns, we're going to set this to 10 columns. The rows, we have 13 rows. Here you have the choice of the style, outline or filled. I'll state with the outline. And what is important here is to know that the size of the gutter correlates with the size of the body text and leading value. And we have set ours to 13 points. For the margins, first I will disable the aspect ratio and set the inner margin to 49 points, the top to 49 points, the outside margin to 80 points, and the bottom also to 80 points. The rest stays as is, so I'll go ahead and click to close. Still working inside the master A page. With the margins and guides already established, it's time to set up the baseline grid and adjust its preferences. Under the view menu, I'll bring up the baseline grids panel and enable the baseline grids. The start position remains at 0. This is going to be relative to the top margin since we have already set the margin spaces on the previous step. The grid spacing that corresponds to the leading value of the body text, which is set to 13 points. I'm also going to enable show baseline grids, and not off the bat we get this blue color, which I can change it because this is quite vivid on my end. I'll click on that. I'll choose the swatches, perhaps choose this gray color, and I can also bring down its opacity just a tad. Once again, this is just a personal choice. The display threshold setting for baseline grids, this controls when those grids become visible based on your zoom level. So if you set the threshold to 70%, the baseline grid would only appear when you zoomed in to 70% or more. So let's go ahead and test that. I'll grab the zoom tool and I'll bring the zoom down below 70%. As you can see, we lose the visibility of the baseline grid. So I'll go ahead and set this up on my end to 20% and then click to close. And by the way, in the event that you want to switch from the normal mode to the preview mode, here is a great shortcut to use.